Welcome to the Black Girls Heal podcast, where we talk about changing unavailable relationship patterns, healing unresolved trauma, and building a healthy relationship with first you and then others. Every episode, we will talk about actionable advice that you can apply today to break unhealthy patterns and grow your self-worth. I'm Sheena Tubbs. Let's begin. Hello. Welcome to the latest episode of Black Girls Heal. So this week we are talking all about manifestation and mindset and the importance of keeping ourselves positive. And so the reason why this is super important is because how you think about yourself, how you think about the world is the reality that you create. If you say you're going to have a bad day, then you're going to have a bad day. If you expect to only meet people who will hurt you, then that's what you will create in the world. If you think that your self-worth is defined or dependent on things outside of you or dependent on the opinions of others, then that is also the reality that you will continue to create, to also always be at the mercy of what other people think and what they can give you. So it's so important that when it comes to our healing work, that we incorporate our mind. This is so important. That's actually one of the first things that I teach our students in our Learn to Thrive program, because I know that if your mindset isn't right and if you don't have some hope and if you don't have a clear vision, then you're going to be sabotaging your process along the way. You're not going to really know what you're searching for, what you're healing yourself for, and you're not going to be clear on your goals. But before we get into that, I just want to say, one, I hope that you are practicing your gratitude this week. We haven't had an episode on gratitude, but I was just thinking about how important it is to our mindset as well to have a daily, regular practice of gratitude, to acknowledge the things that are going on in our lives. So I want to encourage you that if you don't already have your morning routine yet, if you don't already have these things in place, that you can start with a simple gratitude daily exercise where you list the things that you are grateful for. Related to that, I just wanted to list one of the things that I'm grateful for, and it really is the movement and the breakthroughs that I'm watching the women in our Learn to Thrive program have. You know, some women have entered due to dating and relationship issues, some have entered due to family issues, and some have entered due to friendship issues, and all around growing self-worth, growing self-healing, and wanting to be the best version of themselves. And so watching these women transform in such a short period of time, watching them break patterns and things that have been long-standing, reoccurring issues, even though they've been in therapy, even though they've done all the right things, is just incredible. And so I wanted to share one of the testimonials that one of the women have shared actually this past week, so that you can get a taste of the magic that's happening. Sometimes I share testimonials on Instagram and sometimes I share it in our Facebook group, but I realize I've never really shared it here on the podcast. I talk about the program, but you don't really get to hear the receipts, right? You don't really hear from the women themselves what is going on. So in the program, we have the curriculum and the coursework, but then also the magic happens in the coaching that I actively do for each woman in the group. And so learning each of their stories, each of your stories for those of you who will be joining us in the near future for Learn to Thrive. But I learn every woman's story. I learn what their ups are, their downs are, their strengths and their weaknesses. I cheerlead the heck out of them, learn about what their history is, learn about what they want to create. And so throughout our process together, I'm actively helping you work through those things and heal those things and reach your ultimate goals, whether it is deeper self-love, whether it is improved relationships, whatever it may be. And so I just broken down how to practically help someone outside of the curriculum because they needed extra support. So this student in particular wanted to work on her friendships and learning how to get closer to people, let her walls down, be more of herself in this instance. And so broke it down, gave her some tips, and she was able to implement it. And within a few hours, she had an immediate win. And she posted this reply to me. She said, "Thank you so much. I used the tips above chatting with her today, and it worked. I was calmer on the inside and present. I love, capital letters, how you make the information actionable, simple, and clear. I screenshotted this and will continue to use it along with my other tools. I also love how you broke down why it's important to love my quirks and the true benefits of it. This information was very eye-opening. Thank you, capital letters again. This is incredible. So that is a little bit of the taste of what happens when you're in our program. I am in the life-changing business. I do what I can here on our podcast, in our free materials, in our inspirational posts, in our newsletters. But every time you invest in a program, anytime you invest in an experience with me, you will get exponentially more than what you have gotten before. And the results and the impact are immediate. So kudos to my students for putting in the hard work, for shining. I love watching y'all grow. Y'all are amazing women, and I'm privileged to work with you. For those of you who are waiting to learn more about the Learn to Thrive program, you can do that by going to learntothrivecourse.com and entering the waitlist there, or signing up in case the doors are open, as doors open throughout different times. And if you want to get started on something right now, actually this morning of September 23rd, I'm re-recording our masterclass. So if you watched it before, it is going to be different than what you've seen. And this title of it is How to Break the Cycle and Stop Attracting and Obsessing About Situationships to Get the Relationships You Want This Year. The 6-step method to heal and fix your internal magnet. So again, if you watched the masterclass before, it is slightly different than what you've seen before. I've taken out some of the mistakes that I talk about. Not mistakes that I've made, but I communicate the mistakes that people make that keep them stuck in these relationships. That keeps them attracting unhealthy and toxic friendships, romantic partnerships, and keeps them stuck in their family relationships as well. So those mistakes are different and they're new. And also, I've just noticed that people will literally watch my free masterclass multiple times. Because I get notifications and I actually keep them on because I want to know how many people are watching and interacting, and whether or not people are finding value from it. So I'll see the same names of people come through once a week or once every couple of weeks. And so if you have not watched the masterclass, which is a completely free resource for you, I suggest that you get on it. And you can do that by going to blackgirlsheal.org/masterclass. And the last announcement is about the Black Girls Heal Retreat. So I am so excited. So I've already mentioned this on social media. I've been doing a series of lives, Instagram lives and Facebook lives, about what we are talking about at the retreat, to give people kind of a sneak peek about the things that they'll learn. And so I've talked about so far 5 reasons to keep going with your inner healing, even when it gets hard. I've talked about 7 qualities of unhealthy love and relationships. And then I've talked about 5 signs of healthy self-love and inner healing. And so if you haven't caught any of those because you do not follow me on social media, there is still time to watch them. You can find them on Facebook because they are all saved there. But in this last IG Live, I started talking about how the reason why I'm hosting the retreat is because it was requested of me. So anything that the audience that you want and that you need to help increase your healing, I put it out there. So after months of asking people what they wanted to learn, what they wanted it to be about, where they wanted it to be, the best place, all of that, the doors were launched for the retreat to open. And people were literally counting down. I was getting emails I want to know about the retreat, or when is it going to open? I'm so excited. I can't wait. All that stuff. And then when the doors opened, I got the response from a lot of women who were saying, I have been so excited to go, but the price point was just outside of my reach. And so I've talked about the importance of investing in yourself, and I'm not afraid to talk about that just because I've learned the difference. I've learned the difference in my quality of life whenever I've tried to get my healing for the free $99, and the times that I have, pushed and invested at a level that felt uncomfortable to me, and the benefit that I got from it. Especially because this year alone, I've invested literally thousands of dollars into my own personal development and professional development. However, I've also learned how to trust my inner healing, or trust my intuition. And so whenever I would get these messages, this my stomach would start to hurt. Like it would kind of tell me that there was something else going on. So long story short, but my gut was saying, see what I could do to bring it down a little bit more. And so I did some magic and I figured out how to reduce the price of the retreat. And so I was able to bring down the price about $600 for both our private ocean view suites and for the women who wanted to share with their friend and come that way as well. So reduce the price by $600. And then also I was thinking, I actually wanted to do the retreat in Houston in the first place. It could be a more cozy, intimate atmosphere. There are a ton of women of color caterers and vendors that I would love to support. The gifts and the experiences that are planned for every woman to attend would probably be a little bit more intentional because it was here in my home ground. And so I said, well, then let me see if I can just post another option too for women whose coins really were strapped as well. So for those of you who have been interested in going to the retreat and maybe you visited the registration page before and you were like, man, I really want to go, but I'm not going to be able to make the deadline with the payment plans and stuff for the certain amount, I would encourage you to go again. The address is blackgirlsheal.org/retreat. And you now have two options. You now have the all-inclusive Cancun retreat, which is all you have to do is buy your plane ticket, purchase your registration for the retreat, and just show up and everything else is taken care of you. I want to say we actually have our own butler. And I know for some people you're like, I don't need all that. When I when I go on vacation, I like to go on vacation. I work so hard and I really look to find a place that was the same price as all these other all-inclusive retreats, but they really provided like some distinct amenities, right? That we really got the most bang for our buck for going to this place. And then also like we're going to be doing some real intimate like healing work. And so why not be comfortable? Why not just be taken care of and pampered while we are going deep, right? So that is Cancun, and that one is in May. And then the second option that you can do is the one here in Houston, which I have an April date for that one. And that one is going to be more cozy, more intimate. The only thing that is not included, which is different than the Cancun trip, is your lodging. But we will have catered lunch by these women of color vendors that I am so excited to support. And then, of course, the cost is cheaper because we don't have the all-inclusive stuff that we did with Cancun. However, just like Cancun, I'm very thoughtful about wanting to make sure that the experience here in Houston is just as memorable and special and transformational as Cancun. So there are, like I said, surprises, gifts, and experiences that will be a part of our Houston retreat as well. These are all-day experiences with me that we will be connecting and healing for 3 days straight, all day, of course with breaks and everything in between, for you to rest, for you to have fun, for you to connect with the other women, take a nap and go off to yourself, and just recharge for those of you who are introverts. But all that to say, when you come, you will not just be sitting in a room with a PowerPoint. The retreat includes pre-arrival and aftercare support. So it's not just you come and we open up these doors, we give you this really great information, and then I'm just like, hey, good luck, hope you figure it out. But even when you go back to where you're coming from, I am still there to help coach you and guide you along the way. So that is the retreat. Your choice on what you would like to do. I will have doors open until spots are filled or until mid-October. And like all things that I do, because it is for you, this will tell me whether or not we will do another retreat, or if this will just be our one and only time. So I suggest if you're thinking about it, if you're wanting to do it, that you do not say, well, I'll just catch the next one, because there might not be a next one. So Black Girls Heal Retreat blackgirlsheal.org/retreat is where you go to read about the different options, what each one includes, and save your spot depending on which one works best for you. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this episode. So I wanted to break down what I understand manifestation to be, or at least how to do it. I am not a manifestation expert. In 2020, I am going to look to possibly starting to have guests and interviews on the podcast. I intentionally kept 2019 as just solo episodes for me because I wanted to be clear about what this podcast was. For those of you who've been with me from the beginning, you were present when I kind of reinvented it from what it started off to be. And so I wanted to just give myself the space to create and refine what I wanted this message to be. And I'm so happy that I did, because if I had started having all these guests from the beginning, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to say, oh, okay, I do want this podcast to be focused on helping women who struggle with intimacy disorders, who struggle with low self-worth, and help you have practical tools and practical information that you can use to start your healing process. I would have been all over the place, talking about all kinds of healing, which would have been great, but not focused on that, which is where I want it to be. But with all that said, in 2020, I am scoping out some different women who I think would be really good to come and talk about manifestation, other women of color. I feel like for the longest time when I first started learning about law of attraction and manifestation, all of the voices and all of the faces were not women of color, which has been frustrating. But as I've been exploring, I've been finding more and more women who I think are just pretty awesome. And so I may be reaching out to them to have on the podcast in 2020. If there are any women who come to mind for you that you think I should pitch and ask to be a guest, please let me know. You can do that by emailing me at sheena@blackgirlsheal.org. That's Sheena with one E, or contacting me in any other way on Instagram, Facebook, or via our website. But what I'm going to do, because I am not an expert in manifestation, but I have seen how transformational it is when you get your mind right, when you learn how to guide your mindset into positive places versus staying stuck in pain and misery. I want to break down what I understand to be the tips to help you get to the other side. The reason why this is important is because whatever we focus on, like I said at the beginning of this podcast episode, whatever we focus on, we create. So if we focus on lack and how we don't have enough, we actually create more of that. So those of us who are like, man, I'm so broke, or man, I ain't got no money. And, and we may say this kind of stuff jokingly, but we're actually creating that kind of reality, right? We create experiences that show that we don't have enough money. We believe even more that we are the type of person who will always be broke and always be living paycheck to paycheck or direct deposit to direct deposit, versus that we are women who were created to live in abundance. And I'm not trying to trigger anyone who has gone through any spiritual abuse and who has been through the impact of kind of the prosperity gospel and some of the pain that can come from that when people get exploited and all that. But my belief is that God is a God of love, and that he wants the best for you, that he wants to see you blessed and he wants to see you succeed, that he cares for you like a good father does. And like a good father, like a good parent, good mother, what have you, he or she does not want their child to suffer. They want them taken care of. They want them to know that whatever you need, I can supply for you. So that goes along with maybe kind of some Christian mindsets. But then also when we talk about some more spiritual mindsets, and I say spiritual in the kind of universal spiritual extreme, the idea is that the universe is ever abundant. The universe can supply all things that you need. It is all present. It's just whether or not you are open to it. And it's the same way when it comes to the blessings of God. If you are open to it, then it will come. If you expect that you're not going to get what you want before you even ask for it, then how are they going to give it to you? You can't receive anything with a closed hand. And to bring this back around to what we talk about here, Black Girls Heal, so many of us are yearning for, we are thirsting for loving relationships, a loving sense of self, for people to finally see us and believe in us, for people to be there for us, to finally break these cycles of unhealthy relationships, right? And in the same breath, we are expecting for people to hurt us. We are expecting to have to meet someone that is a fixer-upper. We are expecting to find someone who is clingy or less than what we actually want, right? On one hand, we're like, this is what I want. This is what my list is. This is what I need in a partner. But then we may secretly or overtly sabotage that list because we'll take someone who has a big red flag that is against what we're asking for. We say that we deserve respect, but when it comes to having a boundary conversation with someone and we visualize it, we visualize and we expect for that person to talk down to us, and so we just avoid it. Or we expect for them, in case we're not afraid of that. Some of us aren't afraid of that, but some of us are just very keen on expecting the other person to listen. We're expecting them to dismiss us. We're expecting all the variety of negative things that could happen to occur. And so we either create that before it even starts, we come in guns blazing to protect ourselves, or even if we do get it, we don't trust it because we think it can't be long lasting, right? And so we don't practice the gratitude and stuff that I was talking about earlier in this episode. So here are the 4 steps for you. So for you to manifest positive things in your life, first you have to visualize what it is that you want. Is there a certain type of relationship that you want? Is it a family system? Is it a certain career goal? Is it a certain amount of money? Is it a certain lifestyle? And so you spend some time actively thinking and kind of daydreaming about what that will look like. What would it feel like? What would it smell like? What would you be wearing? Who are the people who would be around during this time? And you can do this visualization during your morning routine, during your lunch break if you don't have a morning routine, while you're hiding out in your car if you have kids and you're struggling to find some alone time, but on your way home you just sit in your car for an extra 5 minutes before you come in the door, whatever it may be. But you visualize what you want this to look like, and you do this every day, and you just really get in the feeling of it. You really start to act as if it is here. And the reason why this is important is that once you can actually see it in your mind, you can actually see it in reality as well. Again, for those of you who subscribe to more Christian mindsets and Christian beliefs, the Bible says, write the vision and make it plain. So you cannot create anything unless you know what your vision is, unless you know what you're working for and striving for. It's just a waste. You're blown back and forth without knowing what you're standing on. So once you visualize it, the next step is where people tend to get tripped up on, is because now that you know what you want and what you're trying to manifest, what you are creating, what you are asking for, the next thing is to act as if it already exists. And so you imagine the next level version of yourself, which has that thing that you're trying to visualize and create, and you start to do the things that she would do. So let's say, for example, you wanted to manifest a new kind of car, like your dream car. And your thought is, when I have this dream car, I'm going to clean it. I'm going to wash it every day. I'm going to make sure I have air fresheners in it. Like, it's going to be the best thing because it is the car that I've always been wanting. However, when you look outside at the car that you have now, you let that sucker go unwashed for days, for weeks, for months. You got trash on the inside. You got French fries under the seat. You're not treating your current car in the same way that you would treat your dream car. And so you are not showing that you are ready for God to manifest these things that you want into your life. Let me bring this back around to what we talk about here in relationships. We talk often, or what I hear often is people say, well, once I meet that right person, then it'll be easier for me to trust. I'll be able to let my walls down. I'll be ready to settle down. I'll be more healthier. It's just that I haven't met the right person, right? I'll be able to trust and be more vulnerable. But you don't magically change when you meet that person, right? You still bring who you are to every situation that you are in, right? That's why we have people who are serial monogamers or who have multiple divorces. Maybe you're one of those people and you are the common denominator. And, and I say that in love, but when we look at why we continue to have the same problems over and over, if we are part of that system, we have to look at what we can control, and that is us. And so you could meet the right person right now. You could have the best person who could be a really great friend to you in case you're someone who has continued to be betrayed by people before. You could have your mother or your father come and apologize for the pain that they've done before. But if you are not in a different place to receive that, if you're not at a place where you can receive what they are telling you, their apology to you, forgive them and move forward, you are going to continue to have the same resentment towards your family members because you are the same person as you were before, because you haven't elevated yourself, right? You can have a woman come and be a potential great best friend for you. Y'all have the same interests, you have the same likes, you have the same values, but because you've been betrayed by women before in the past, all of her attempts to get close to you, to hang out, to be vulnerable, to hold pain for you, you push it aside. You deny it. You get busy. You have all these reasons to not get close to her because you're afraid of being hurt, because you haven't stepped into that next level version of yourself who is open to having new relationships, who is open to being trustworthy, or being trusting other people, right? Same thing with the romantic relationships, right? So when we talk about acting as your next level version of yourself, you have to think, if I were to get that thing that I wanted right now, today, how would I be acting? What would I be thinking? What would I be saying to other people? What would I be saying to myself? And you start to act as if right now, today, so that you can be ready for that blessing when it comes. Okay? So that's step number 2. Step number 3 is speaking these things into existence. So I already talked about you taking time to visualize it happening every day, but you start to tell other people, you start to say out loud, I just love all the friends that I have around me, right? Let's say the old you didn't really have a lot of friends, that you felt really lonely, but you start to say, I have today great friends. The reason why you don't say, I want to have good friends, or one day I will have good friends, is because those words that you're saying, you're actually speaking those into existence as well. So when you say one day I will have fill in the blank, you're creating a reality where every day you're waiting. Every day you're waiting for the one day. Instead of the one day being today, that it actually exists for you today, you're going to have days, months, years where you're going to continue to say, one day in the future, who knows what day, but it'll come, right? When you have language that's centered around wanting or kind of being desperate for or really like needing, you create a reality where that is what's going on as well. Instead of you being certain that it exists because you already have it. A lot of you who are familiar with like faith concepts like this is like really resonating with you because it is all so connected. And the last step is to believe that it's going to happen and not doubt. And so this is actually, it's the last step, but it's actually integrated into all of these, right? Like to believe that it is possible for you and that it is here for you. And this is where your inner healing work really comes into play. Because so many of us may have been doing our own visualization work. Like this isn't anything new that I'm talking to you about, either because you are already familiar with manifestation and mindset, and so you've been doing these steps specifically, or because you've been trying to create this yourself and be positive on your own, like you just kind of stumbled into it yourself. And you can tell me, Sheena, I've been like trying to think about this stuff and I've been acting as if, and it's not working. Like nothing is occurring the way that I'm visualizing it to be. And the reason that that is because there's a part of you that still doesn't believe that it's possible, that doesn't believe that you're worthy of it, that is still afraid of when everything goes south. And so your mind, your reality is being created around those fears, around those gaps. And again, that's where the inner healing work is really important, because there are wounds and there are traumas that have created those belief systems in you. You know, you have these beliefs because you have real history and real experiences that have told you every time you try to believe differently that you got disappointed, that things happened that got in the way, that it only lasted for a little bit of time. So, of course, it makes sense that it's hard for you to believe that it's possible, because it has been in the past, right? You didn't make up the ways that you've been disappointed before. Those are real things that have occurred. But for you to be able to create something different, you have to step into a place of healing, a place of openness, a plane of trust, a place of trust, right? So that's where your healing work comes into place at. I've actually been considering and thinking, because Learn to Thrive is amazing, and so many women are working on their inner healing work and making real impact and change. But I've also been thinking about maybe possibly doing a mentorship program in 2020 where I am literally walking you through just these feelings of not feeling enough, and like breaking down throughout your lifespan, throughout your time, how to build your self-love, how to release shame that's been projected on you, how to step into the full version of yourself. And so these are just things that I've been thinking about, because whenever you join our free Facebook group, there's a series of questions that you have to answer. And I say, well, this group and what Black Girls Heal about is about stopping the cycle of unhealthy relationships and feeling not enough, healing that. So which one of these two things are you most interested in? And I've just noticed an uptick in women who have joined asking about support for feeling not enough. And I really want to be able to meet that need. And while Learn to Thrive does that, I do also feel like it is very relationship heavy. So if you're having a problem with your friendships, with your romantic relationships, with your family relationships, with boundaries, and feeling not enough there, or needing to repair some wounds and things that have gone on, Learn to Thrive is your best bet. Like, it's amazing. It's incredible. And it also helps you with your inner healing. What I'm thinking about creating is a program that's great for your inner healing, great for your self-love, great for your self-worth, and then it can also help with relationships as well, if that distinction makes sense. So just thoughts that I'm having right now. I may or may not create that, but it's in my idea tank. If that's something that you think you would want me to create, if that's a program that you would be more interested to join, because from what you've heard about Learn to Thrive, it's not exactly what you're looking for, but this inner healing stuff is, let me know. So yeah, for you to get what you want, you have to do this inner healing work so that your own mindset and your own wounds do not get in the way and block you from creating this reality, because your mind won't even let you go there, because your heart won't let you go there. So that is it for this episode. I really want you to start to visualize what you want your 2020 to look like. I know that this is still September when this podcast is being posted, but it is important for you to start knowing now, how is your next year going to be different, right? You can start that process by making the most of your next 90 days, of your next 100 days left in the year, right? You don't want to create this reality where you're like, 2020 will be different, because some of us say every year, next year is going to be my year, 2019 is going to be my year, 2020 is going to be my year. No, 2021, that's for real going to be my year. You have the power today to make whatever changes you want in your life. So take ownership of that, and start taking ownership of visualizing what do you want your life to look like. And if Black Girls Heal is part of that process, then get on board, because I would love to be your guide along the way. So that is it. Go ahead and tag me on Instagram if you enjoyed this episode. Let me know what your takeaways were at blackgirlsheal_. And then, of course, you can join us in our free Facebook group at blackgirlsheal.org/group. It'll take you directly there for you to join. As always, make sure you answer all 3 of those questions. Otherwise, I will have to decline your request to join. But you're always welcome to request to join again and just answer those questions. So that's it for today. I will see you next week. Take care of yourselves.